Hey guys, welcome to week 2 of the Dynasty Sports Podcast with myself, Cole Jirik, and a co-host, Joey Blackmore.
Yeah, we got two pretty awesome guests on today. The first one I'll introduce quickly, in case you don't know, is Tristan Johnson. Tristan's from SEC country. LaGrange, Georgia is where he grew up. He played ball at University of Kentucky, where he was a 2-year starter there on the D-line, played D-tackle. He graduated in 2013. Same with Billy, Cole, and myself, so we're all the same age, football-wise. After college, and correct me if I'm wrong anywhere here, T.
Oh yeah, go ahead. You right so far.
You coached linebackers at Kentucky Wesleyan, right?
Yeah.
What's that? NAIA D2? What's that?
Division II, man. I kind of was in Division II my whole career. I feel like I never went up or down.
So you were there for a year, and then that's how you ended up in Fargo-Moorhead. You ended up at Minnesota State Moorhead. You were there for 3 years, coaching the D-line. Really kind of completely turned that D-line around, and I mean it's still doing really well there. A couple first-team all-conference guys. In 2017, you were part of the best record in a Minnesota State Moorhead history, right?
Yeah.
We were good then.
Yeah, that was kind of the next year was better. I feel like it was an 8-win season next year, right? 7-win season.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, right. You left us.
Yeah.
I forget about that.
Then 8 year, but you hit on it right, kind of.
Yeah.
Developed
Okay.
guys, and then it took off even farther.
Yeah. So then you went. You were at University of Mary out in Bismarck, another D2 school, coaching the D-line. You were there for what, 2 years?
2 years. I was there 2 years, tried to be a part of something. Getting built around, but kind of stepped away for a little bit just to see what life can bring me. But
and then our second guest, a lot of you guys will probably know because we're primarily targeting this towards the Fargo-Moorhead area. Billy Turner, he played ball with Cole and I at North Dakota State. He was an O-lineman, 4-year starter, 2-time first-team All-American, All-Conference, all the accolades. He was a 2013 FCS Lineman of the Year. Billy and Cole were both captains in 2013 on that 15-0 national championship team. They both won 3 national championships as players together. Billy was, invited to the combine, did the Senior Bowl deal, selected in the 3rd round by the Miami Dolphins. And then we'll kind of get into more of his NFL career later. But that's just kind of a quick intro on our 2 guests this evening. How you guys doing?
Yeet.
What's up, Bill?
What's up, buddy?
How's quarantine life?
Hey, man, I'm still breathing, still alive, still having fun. Can't complain.
That's right. My guy T was supposed to get married yesterday.
I know that's kind of the biggest bummer for me with quarantine. Kind of putting an end to a lot of things. So I was one of those group of people that had to cancel a wedding. Didn't want to pass.
Go to the courthouse?
The germs. Nah, we're gonna do it on the 8th.
August 8th, right?
8th, yep, 2020. We're gonna see hope things get better by then, but if not, it's guaranteed to happen on the 8th though. So looking forward to that day. Officially, my wedding day is that should have been May the 2nd. Is 100 days away from the new wedding day, which is kind of ironic. So the 100-day countdown started over.
We're at 99 days right now.
99 now, so it's kind of started over.
With all the quarantine stuff going on, Billy, I see you got some stuff going on, the kind energy and whatnot. You want to touch on that real quick?
Yeah, I started a nonprofit with one of my childhood buddies, Nick Jarvis. Who's my neighbor. We had the idea of starting a nonprofit for a while, but we finally starting to get things off the ground here. And, our first kind of campaign, the first project we did was the Irie Project, a little give back project I did with my team, the Packers, the Salvation Armory, some local churches and whatnot, and some elementary schools throughout Minnesota, Wisconsin area. That was during the football season. But right now with what's going on, this whole COVID-19 bullshit, we wanted to figure out how to give back. What could we do that was something that we both enjoyed doing. And, you know, we were able to raise money somehow for the less fortunate people who are being affected by this, whether it be people who need food, kids who aren't able to go to school to get those meals, whether it be frontline personnel that are working this thing, you know, who need personal protective equipment that don't have anything and are reusing stuff. So essentially, we're selling T-shirts. Honestly, a lot of them are plain Jane, but there's an option to have some tie-dye, some bleach, paint splatter. The idea is not about getting a dope sweatshirt, although I do like the apparel. It's more so buying the product with 100% of the proceeds going towards COVID-19 relief. So that's kind of what we've been doing the past month and a half, trying to promote it the best that we can, raise some money to help people that are, you know, affected by this. But
how can you buy the apparel? You got a website?
Yeah, kindenergyfoundation.com. You can find it. You can find it on my Instagram page. The Instagram page for the Kind Energy site is Kind Energy, and then 2 underscores, I believe. But I mean, throughout the course of the week, if you follow my story, you follow me, I usually post something every day, every other day in regards to the foundation and whatnot.
What's your Instagram handle you post on?
Bill_Turner77.
Right.
How's what's it like from an NFL standpoint right now? Obviously, mini camps have been canceled. Has summer workouts officially kind of been canceled, or is that up in the air? You might come back yet?
I mean, they haven't officially said. Basically, what they have set up is a couple week time periods where this first month or first month and a half, however long it is, everything is via Zoom, kind of like we're doing right now. We hop on every day, coaching staff, teammates by your position group. We go over key points, main points, whatever the objective is for that day, whether it's run, pass, certain plays, any type of emphasis is kind of what we cover when we're actually on Zoom. And then they basically set up these PowerPoint type slide things, which is basically reinstalling all of the plays, all of the schemes, all of the points of emphasis throughout our offense and throughout the team that we want to get out there, that we want everyone to start learning again, as every team kind of does during this time period. But that's all via, you know, PowerPoint and whatnot. So it's kind of like online schooling. You know, it's anywhere from an hour to 2 hours a day of watching videos, going through these play points. You got a quiz at the end. And then after that, we usually hop on the Zoom call for anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes, just depending on what needs to be covered for the day.
Is it a pretty basic install, since it's tough when you can't actually run through the motions and have a walkthrough and then, you know, have a run through? Are they keeping it pretty simple?
Yeah, I mean, during this time period, you can't do walkthroughs anyways. So during this time period, you really can only just install plays via watching film and whiteboard type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
From that aspect, it is all the same. Where it will get different is, you know, the way it's set up. It's a 4-hour day at this point. We're 2 hours in the classroom, the other 2 you're on the field. Obviously, the other 2 hours, whether you're on the field or, you know, doing your workouts, you got to do that on your own, which is fine.
Right.
And you transition into that period of time where it's 6 hours a day, and it's usually 2, 2, and 2. So the other 2 hours are basically on the field. And, you know, obviously right now with what's going on, we can't come together as a team. So, you know, that's kind of just going to be on each guy's individual own type of thing. You know, whether you're able to get some position drills in at your house or wherever it is that you're staying throughout the country, you know, it's going to be different for everyone. But at the same time, that's where it, you know, being a pro comes into play. What are you willing to do, and what are you willing to sacrifice during your day, and what are you willing to come up with, you know, from the creative standpoint to get your work in?
Have they been sending you workouts, or are you just doing them on your own kind of?
I mean, they send you workouts. You can follow them if you want to, but a lot of guys kind of have different facilities, no different than Cole's facility. You know, I'm sure, you know, professional athletes go in there all the time that may have, you know, the Green Bay Packers, whoever's strength program, but each individual kind of strength and conditioning, call it facility, has their own type of system that they like to train guys under, and everyone kind of goes back to their own facility and does their own thing kind of to a certain extent because that's what they're comfortable with.
For sure, yeah, we've definitely had some athletes in that, we don't want to get too far away from what the teams want from you guys, but different philosophies all over the place. But obviously a rookie coming in with you, Zach Johnson from North Dakota State, maybe coming to play, maybe your backup or whatnot. How difficult for a rookie is this not maybe to have the OTAs, not have rookie mini camp and not do some of those things?
It's going to be difficult, man. I mean, it's a tough game. It's difficult regardless, but from, for him, there might not be that OTA time frame where you get used to the speed of the game, where you get used to the physicality, you get used to the offense and stuff like that. He might not have that time. I don't know how this is going to shake out. I mean, let's say we do start up at some point in August. I mean, yeah, there's got to be some sort of acclimation period, but there's a difference between an acclimation period between you and your teammates and having a couple preseason games for a younger guy to kind of get the jitters out and to kind of get back into the flow of football, whereas, for me, going into my 7th year, I've done this 6 years prior. I know what to expect. And, it's not that I don't think I need those preseason games, but it's to the point where if I don't get those preseason games, I still know how to prepare myself and to mentally be there ready to go game day.
Right. Did you guys, there was some pretty big news on Wednesday. I know T and I talked about it briefly, but the NCAA Board of Governors proposed a new rule where college athletes can get paid by their likeliness, their name, their image. How do we all feel about that?
What about that back pay? Does that mean I get money?
Every time a 77 jersey was sold, Billy should get something. Donate it right to Kind Energy.
All right.
Shields was selling those 77 jerseys left and right, way more than those 16 jerseys for sure. 77 was probably the most popular jersey off the shelf.
Man, that's crazy though. I remember when we were in college, and I mean, it seems like every football season, especially because I think football and basketball, but obviously football for us, it's the hype of the year. You get into fall and whatnot, but it always seemed like there was something that was going on, where there was someone at a big-time school that was getting caught up in some scandal where someone was giving him money or he was accepting money somehow. And, I just remember there always being kind of rumblings, if you may, throughout the NCAA and throughout the wavelengths of college football and college athletics as a whole, of there being a point in time where athletes will be able to profit off their name, off their number, off what they're doing on the field, because honestly, as we know, I mean, think about somebody like Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel, at his prime, was a college athlete, one of the best of all time. NFL did not pan out for him. Not saying he didn't get money. Yeah, he was a first-round draft pick, everything. But Johnny Manziel's hype was when he was in college, which is that's how a lot of college athletes, that's how the story goes. You don't always make it to the next level and have that hype and have that success at the next level. So, there's a lot of instances where, guys, potentially now could be going to play college sports, college athletics, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, anything, and have the chance to make money, to start building a life, not only for them, but their families, even if they don't make it to the next level.
Yeah. And I think it's going to affect recruiting a ton. I mean, when we think back to when we were getting recruited, and T's the only Power 5 guy in here. But, T, just talk a little bit about your recruiting experience and how you think this is going to potentially change if this does pass.
I think it comes down to like the style of kid you are recruiting. I think a lot of kids have that mindset of league or nothing.
Right.
They coming straight in to college, and I think that's the guy that's going to be targeted the most. With how much money can we get you and guarantee you a good shot in the league, because everybody ain't gonna get that shot in the league. It's that's just how the numbers plays out. But as far as the recruiting process for me, man, it was just like wowing. Like far as just a school wanting you, and it wasn't like mostly the coaching and all of that was like A1, but it was the fans that like knew who you were and like wanted you to be there, because it was like at the time period of me going to the University of Kentucky, it was like a pipeline with guys that was already from my high school that was already the University of Kentucky. So that just felt like home for me right off bat, that it was just like LaGrange going to a bigger LaGrange, because it was guys already from your hometown and you felt comfortable with seeing familiar faces. Unlike some people will go to a college and they the only person from their high school that going off to college there, and it's just a new process. Got to meet new friends. Me, I already had like 6 or 7 guys that knew where I lived at back in LaGrange. They knew my parents, and it was just an easy process of transitioning. I think when it comes down to it, that money coming to play, will it be a salary cap? Like how do you cap it? Like what? Like because like Johnny Manziel, like is if you take that back to the period of Johnny Manziel, he's probably the richest student walking around campus. If you really would think about it, like you got some kids that studying to be doctors because their dad was doctors and they coming for money, but majority of kids in college is just like, I need this so I can have a good job afterward. So will it be a salary cap? And then how would you pay that guy that's a Tristan Johnson that ain't like a big name guy that's just a role player? Will he see any benefits from it? Like it's a lot that's gonna go into it.
So the proposed rule is a student athlete can receive any amount of compensation from any third-party endorsement, as long as it's not related to the school or the conference. So I was talking to a Power 5 recruiting coordinator the other day, a good friend of ours, and he basically says anybody can pay anyone anything, as long as it's not coming directly from the school or the conference, and as long as it's not related, they can't use their logo. All they can use is their name, their image, their likeliness.
What about if it's like a booster?
Oh, yeah.
So boosters are just, you're allowed to?
Any third-party endorsement. So they wouldn't be able to pay it through like, what's the Bison booster called? Team Makers. Like Team Makers wouldn't be able to pay Billy Turner X amount of money because Team Makers is directly associated with NDSU athletics. But if someone who donates to Team Makers also owns a car dealership and they want this new recruit, Trey Lance, to commit to NDSU over Minnesota, they can say, hey, once a month, we want you to come and do a signing for us. It's going to promote my business because you're the star quarterback. We're not going to do anything with North Dakota State or the Missouri Valley Football Conference. We can pay you $10,000 every time you come. We can pay you $25,000 anytime you come. If you're at Alabama and there's someone big, we can pay you $50,000 every time you come. So in a way, it's pretty, I think it's been a long time coming. You know, personally, in my opinion, you know, if you look at guys like a Colton Heagle who didn't make it to the NFL, I remember for 3 years, 2 years, whatever it was, number 20 jerseys were being sold at Shields for like $300. And you could see number 20 jerseys in the stands, you know, and if he gets some percentage of that, obviously there's a lot of rules and there's stipulations that need to be ironed out because it could turn into the Wild West a little bit. And I think that's what a lot of people are a little afraid of, but it can definitely benefit the small town, the smaller school player, you know, especially if you're thinking D2 stuff, D3, you know, I think of my hometown, St. John's, really, really good D3 program, ton of alumni. I would imagine that they're going to be able to benefit from this, you know, or a St. Thomas who is right in your backyard, Billy. People that graduate from there end up earning a lot of money and they're very proud alumni and they want to donate back and they want to feel a part of the success of the football program, right? And this is a great way for someone who's not a coach, not in the athletic department, to kind of give back and be like, hey, I'm paying this guy $50,000, you know, a year or whatever it is to do these endorsements. And like, I got him, you know, and I think it might almost become a one-up type deal.
So you see it being mostly done in the recruiting process, because like, or you see it being done mostly like as
I think after, because there are rules, you know, with the recruiting process that won't allow the third party, but I mean, all that's can be kind of done behind closed doors, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's call it like it is. There was all this stuff going on before this. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna get reckless, 100%.
I mean, I look at Missouri Valley Conference alone. You know, if NDSU and SDSU are in a recruiting battle for one of the top prospects in the area, and say, hey, you know, we have Shields in town here that's going to do some awesome sponsorship, and say Corwin, the car dealership, or you know, our quarterbacks are earning an extra $10,000 a month right now. You sure you don't want to come play quarterback here? You know, I think that's maybe how the recruiting process will go. It'll be interesting to see how teams handle that. And, you know, I think teams like NDSU are in a good position where towns have a lot of money, a lot of good boosters, and can do things like that. A team like Indiana State in our conference that doesn't have that kind of support, it might hurt, but it'll be interesting. It'll be the Wild West. And, you know, there'll be some athletes that are turning into Bronx and having some wild parties for free at the bars. For sure. I would have set a few of those up for sure.
T, how many official visits did you go on?
I only went on one, man.
You just went to Kentucky.
I just went to Kentucky, bro. And I sometimes I thought about it and I was like, man, I should have just like went and tried other schools out, but it's just a lot went into the play of me picking Kentucky. It's kind of like boring, but I know it was a movie, The Program, that I grew up on, that I always like thought official visits would be like that. And then another mindset was He Got Game. He went on an official visit, and I just was like, I gotta get on these official visits things.
You wanted to be like Jesus.
I know, huh? Jesus. Yeah, man. He had those two women in bed waiting on him at the party, so I thought that. But no, man, I committed early, and like the game has changed a lot now. Like guys will commit and then still go on visit the other places and like
because they get that check now.
Yeah.
Right? So the rumors are that an official visit to an SEC school is you get $15,000 for like a stipend for doing that. So if you go on 5 official visits, that's $75,000. That's the going rate for an SEC official visit.
Maybe a big time SEC. They're not doing that at Kentucky or what, T?
No.
Yeah, they didn't roll out the red carpet for you, T, or what?
No, man. I had like one of my best friends was my official my host, man, and like I had the best time. But it's easy to have the best time coming out of high school though. Mm-hmm. Like you gotta think about like when you go to your first house party in college, it's like Project X, like at 18. You know what I mean? Like it's
what it feel like.
Yeah, like it's the dopest. Like you go to a high school house party, it might was lit, but then like it really won because somebody mom was in the living room. We think she kind of weird for let her son actually have a house party, like and people in here drinking. But like it was a different ball game, man. I just loved it there, man. Like I just felt like it wasn't nobody else can show me that Kentucky like didn't show me, but. Like when I hosted visit, it was $50. If you give me that 1,500, man, I can show you the best time in your life. You know what I mean? Because like $50 was like a great time. Like that's all I need, and I can get guys committed off of $50 stipend. But off of that stipend, bro, you can have a great time.
Let me go ahead and rephrase that for you. 15,000.
Oh, 15,000. Oh yeah. That's stupid bands. Like that's crazy. Like, let's just go visit. Like, why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Billy, your recruiting was a little bit different. It was a lot more competitive for you, and it kind of came down to the wire, right? Your brother, Maurice Jr., was at Northern Iowa, obviously a big rival of North Dakota State, and he was playing wide out there. How did it kind of go for you?
Yeah, I mean, my first two offers were Northern Iowa and University of North Dakota, and I went to camp at Northern Iowa. I left a couple weeks later. They gave me an offer. I don't even know if I went up to camp at University of North Dakota and they had already sent me an offer maybe, but I went up there for their camp, and on my way through, passing through, you got to pass through Fargo to get to Grand Forks. I remember waking up in the car, like, where are we at? Oh, this is Fargo. I was like, oh, all right. And we got up to Grand Forks. I'm like, bro, where are we? And my dad was like, this is University of North Dakota. This is Grand Forks. I'm like, nah, It was just to me, just from getting out the car, looking around, I was like, nah, this ain't the vibe. Absolutely not. So I ended up back at NDSU, and I ended up, like, tearing my hip flexor or something stupid running the 40 at NDSU's camp, so I didn't even do anything. And then they had invited me back up for the senior whatever prospect.
That July elite camp, the one day?
Yeah, whatever they call it. And then that's when they ended up offering me. And I honestly, the only official visit I went on was NDSU. That was it. You know, I didn't end up going to Northern Iowa. I didn't like that fit. I didn't want to go to South Dakota State. I didn't want to go to any of the Illinois schools or any of that, and I didn't have any big-time offers. So, I mean, honestly, NDSU it was, man, and turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life.
Right. For sure. Another stipulation to this rule, which is going to like trickle down to high school, is they're proposing that college athletes will be able to hire an agent. And they're talking about, did you read that, Cole?
Yeah. I mean, some
you
guys have agents prior to their graduation anyway, just not signed, but.
Right. And they're talking now that that's probably going to start the agent recruiting process in a way in high school, because
That's
kids
wild.
like, especially with basketball, and T, you're from like the one and done university of all time in Kentucky basketball.
Yeah, I just don't like, so like it's easy to do it for basketball. Like those guys senior year in high school know what round they're gonna get drafted in. I just feel like the game of football, like you can develop into somebody and like and then like the kid that you think is really good in football 9 times out of 10 don't usually pan out a lot of times. So it's gonna be, it's like you gotta like be like a really good agent if you get into that. And you really got to know talent, because
it's like baseball. It's like it's more potential.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be the first overall pick in the MLB draft, and I mean, honestly, not see a major league baseball diamond for 6, 7 plus years. You know, I mean, everyone's completely different, but they draft on potential, man. And it's no different than certain positions in football either, but exactly like you said, basketball's, I mean, shit, everyone knew Zion Williamson was going to be the number 1 overall pick when he was in high school. Like, there was no doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, shit, if you're an agent and you get him locked up in high school, you just made some money, some serious money real quick, too. But now, go ahead and say that's a football player. You still got 3 years.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Anything can happen.
But they need like develop like a spot where they can, like, once your college career over with, you still need somewhere that you can go to get like 2 more or 3 more years into that football thing.
Well, do you think having this endorsement deal now will probably help you stay if you're a basketball player, right? Like, let's say you play basketball at Oregon and you're a star, you're a one and done, no brainer. And you got Nike saying that they want to endorse you as a third party. Is Nike directly related to Oregon?
Yeah.
They are. So they couldn't do that then?
Well, I mean, Phil Knight went to Oregon. That's the relation and whatnot. But I think
I knew that. But they're not related like in an athletic department facet or anything like that.
They're just a Nike school. I mean, I think you'll look at all the big schools. I think Duke's a Nike school, so Zion Williams wear Nike shoes. I mean, I think, you know, basketball-wise, you know, those deals are going to be huge. Nike's going to be offering these kids huge money, and, you know, it's going to come down to, I think, you know, Kansas was an Adidas school, and obviously, you know, let's see what happened with them. You know, they got caught, you know, with a lot of schools giving money to these players. And now that's going to be in the public light. People are going to see what some of these players are actually getting paid to go play basketball.
Right.
Duke or Louisville or Kentucky or some of these schools. It's wild, but maybe it keeps them in longer. Some of these guys are going college and going right to the G League now. So maybe this will bring them back into college. Some of the guys, some of the top prospects were one decommitted from UCLA recently to go to the G League and make some money. Maybe that won't happen now because they could make, $100,000 or $1 million if they're good enough. I mean, Nike would probably given Zion Williams $1 million to wear their shoe last year.
Probably more, right? I mean, a lot of NBA players make more off their endorsements than they do their actual salary.
So you could truly say the NCAA doing this to fight with the G League.
Yeah, a little bit.
Maybe.
I think a little bit. I think you got to look at it a few different ways. I think the NCAA wants to secure it. So if a pandemic like this does happen again, they say, hey, these athletes are making money off themselves. They're not students. They're paid athletes. So now we can bring them back maybe in a pandemic situation and treat them like professional athletes, and not have to treat them like normal students. So I think that plays a role into it. And I think there's some positives for D2 and D3 guys to maybe earn some money off just their YouTube channels or Instagram channels or TikTok. Now they can make money that way because they're maybe not getting a scholarship at Concordia, playing nose tackle, but he has a really good product or a really good YouTube channel he can sell and make a few dollars.
I mean, it's like the XFL too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, the first dude just got drafted out of the XFL last week. You know what I'm saying? And his big thing was I don't remember where was he at? West Virginia, Virginia Tech. He's somewhere, one of those schools. But basically, I don't know if he got in trouble, what happened, but went into the XFL because he needed to make some money to help his family.
Right.
Made a couple thou, helped the family out. Ended up getting drafted, you know what I mean? It's like a great situation for him, but I mean, moving forward, I know the XFL is kind of one of those things. I mean, you compete with the NFL, that is like the cream of the crop as far as professional sports in the industry. But I mean, I got to believe that there's going to be, especially now with this NCAA thing, there's definitely going to be certain things that are happening that, I mean, and don't get me wrong, from my point of view, the XFL, the G League, whatever, my pops was not going to let me do none of that. I was getting that college degree.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think there's still definitely going to be people like that, call it their father, whether it's not someone in your family, whether it's just you want to have your college degree, you want to have that experience, whatever. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing either, but I don't think that all of the top players and the top athletes are going to go to the G League or are just going to go to college, whether it be football, basketball, any sport. I think there's still going to be an even mix of dudes who, he might be the 50th ranked dude, in basketball or football, and he's going to choose to go to, Oregon to play football. He's not going to go to the XFL, or whether it's basketball too, he's not going to go to the G League, but he gets that 1 or those 2 years to develop. Next thing you know, he's a first round, number 1 overall draft pick type of thing, So it does open it up a little bit for some of those guys who can potentially bet on yourself, but at the same time, you still have the chance to kind of develop also.
So we're all in agreement that we all think this is a good thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I would like to see, if I was in the brainstorming room, I would like the NCAA to have a certain percentage of athletes that are just employees. So you don't have to worry about school, none of that. Like, it should be a certain percentage of the team that could be like employees. The only thing you here for is for sports. You don't have to worry about getting to school, none of that. We paying you just to do this sport. So then now you got guys that, like, some of the best guys I played with didn't even have the grades to get into school. So now the guy don't even have a chance to, like, pursuing what he was put on earth to do because of academics. In a different term, Billy, like, your dad had you thinking that you going to school to get your grades. But it's some people out there that just want to play football. Like, I don't see myself doing any other job. That's what I was put on earth to do, is to play football. Well, get that guy opportunity to put on the University of Kentucky jersey. Your job is to play football. Don't worry about school. This is your job. But with that being said, you can be fired at any time. So
right.
That's what I like to see. Like
that's an SEC mindset right there. So my thing is that would cause such a huge division within a team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, why do I have to go to school? Like, I'm still a starter. You know what I mean? But
like it should be your choice. Like you, like your dad, like the reason you taking classes because your dad wants you to get a degree when it's all said and done. You could be in the same boat as me and not do that class thing. But I don't think you're gonna take a division of the team because your team is your team. That's what it boils down to. Once you put that helmet on, you put them pads on, you know who you're trying for.
There's a lot of 18-year-old kids that think they're going to the league, though. Those guys that we play with, I thought they were going to the league that they never even saw the field at NDSU. So I see what you're saying in some sense, but man, some guys need that degree because they got no other option when college is done. I mean, we got some teammates that if they didn't get that college degree, man, I don't know, they'd be working at McDonald's right now because they would have 0 degree and have no ability to get jobs places, and they would have chose the option not to go to class and not to get that degree because it was hard enough to help them through and make dragging guys out of bed just to get them to class and make sure they'd be eligible for football.
That is true, but like I don't know. That's just my mindset.
Yeah.
Like, freaking,
how do you feel about the argument? Like people will say, these athletes they're getting their school paid for, they're getting this, they're getting that. You just think that's a bunch of BS or what?
Yeah, like truly, like some people don't want to go, like they don't want to go to school. Like I done seen like guys like fell out that was like pretty good ball players, but I never had an opportunity to make it to the league because they didn't like take care of the classroom stuff. So if your job is to play football and that's what you think your God-given talent is, basketball, whatnot, like what is that opportunity for you to be able to make it to the pinnacle, NFL, the pros, without having to go to school if school ain't for you?
Right.
Like,
yeah. And there's no other option. I mean, like Billy mentioned, the XFL, I don't know if you know this, but the XFL is done. Like it lasted a season and they already just canceled it for the second time. What was that league last year?
AFL.
Yeah, the AFL. It was the same thing. The AFL is going to be the next bit, and it's already done. So, like, there's really only one path for you. I mean, if you're a college ball player, I mean, you can technically, fail out after, the first, I guess you got to pass one semester only, and then you can go pro. But if you're for football, I mean, you kind of have to if you want to make it.
3 years.
Yeah, who was that Ohio State, really good Ohio State that I dropped out a long time ago? Maurice Claret or something like that?
He tried to leave early, yeah.
Yeah, he left early, he was one of the best running backs in college football. But if you don't make it through kind of and check the boxes, it is stacked up against you. It's stacked up against you to begin with. But if you want to try and skip a hurdle, you're going to be in trouble. So that's interesting.
That's what I propose if I was in that thinking room. Like, just pay them straight up. Like, no ACT score. Like, let's go ahead and give them that $20,000 a year.
Why do you think people are so against that?
Against what?
Actually, just paying. Because you'll hear like, oh well, it's an amateur sport. It's taking the whatever away from college sports, which is
because that's what the whole everything been built off of as a student athlete. Like it's like that's like when you go back and watch the first ever Heisman winner, he was actually going to class. Like that's what Bo Jackson did. That's what everybody did. Nobody want to see nothing other than that now. But if you paying people to come in, that's what it really gonna come down to. Because now, like you pay somebody X amount of dollars. You ain't gonna pay no Rudy Poop that much money. You're gonna pay a dude. It's gonna come down to a bidding war. So you ain't picking a university anymore for their major. If it comes down to a bidding war.
Right. And it makes sense that you would pay because the NCAA made over $1 billion, just the NCAA alone. That's not universities. You're talking about multi-billion-dollar industry in college sports. So, I see your point, T. It does make sense that you would treat it like it is $1 billion industry, just like the NFL is $1 billion industry, right?
Yeah.
It's been $1 billion industry though, with athletes getting paid under the table for,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, since the beginning of time. It's not going to be, I mean, it'll be a little bit different now, because it'll just be a little more open about it. You'll see athletes who are able to brand and market themselves in a different way, which, I mean, it's dope, but at the same time, I mean, shit, he's going to brand himself and make 50 grand. He's going to get 50 grand under the table from somebody, some way, somehow, depending on where he's at school,
But when can you actually use that 50 grand when you get, because like you can't be hot, like you can't go cop a new car, like
now you'll be able to though.
They couldn't, but they did. They did. Think about homie Ohio State's quarterback. He was tattoos, pulling up in it like, bro, what are you doing?
That's what I'm saying. That like, but he should be able to move like that regardless. Like
he'll be able to now.
He will be able to now, but like that's like you can't like. So even if I give you 50 grand and you're a sophomore at X university, you can't cash this check until you done. So it ain't like you can. That's what Reggie Bush got bound up with, right? When they went back and showed everything that Reggie Bush had, it was like, dang, like you supposed to be broke and your mama living like this, like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you guys think on athletes being able to transfer schools a little bit more fluidity? Like, if a head coach leaves, should you be able to leave and go to the same school he does, or go to a different school? Because
I like that rule.
Yeah.
I was never a fan of the rule where they didn't allow you to transfer, and if you did, you had to sit out a year. That was just, I mean, there's too many situations just in life in general that has nothing to do with football that can just be very personal to you and your family. I mean, one of my homies, Willie, he ended up committing to Ohio State out of high school from Eden Prairie here, and his family moved out to California. He didn't want to be that, you know what I mean? So he ended up transferring, then he had to sit out, and then credits didn't transfer, so on and so forth. So I think that that's a good rule that should have been put into play a long time ago.
Yeah, I think every athlete should have at least one opportunity to transfer at some point.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, coaches can leave at any time. They can leave for any reason. I mean, most of them jobs or whatnot. I think a little bit more freedom on that end will be massive. And some guys get passed up. They're recruiting a guy every year to replace you. Obviously some guys can be 4-year starters, and some guys will play for a year. And if you started early and got passed up, if you have an opportunity to go play at a different school, you should be able to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I think you're starting to see people reap the benefit of that too.
Mm-hmm.
And Jalen Hurts, he was going to ride the bench.
Right.
He have no choice.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me he was going to be a second-round pick still riding the bench all last year?
Right.
I don't think so.
I mean, and Joe Burrow's another one, right? I mean, he transferred.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that, but
number 1 overall pick. He was at Ohio State riding the bench.
Nebraska telling him, our quarterback.
Yeah, Scott Frost. What is he doing?
Oh yeah.
This guy make us better? No, we got Martinez. We're good. And,
Frosty.
Choice.
Damn.
Yeah. What was it? The top 3 picks were all at Ohio State a year ago.
2 years ago, whatever. They all got recruited.
Yeah, 2 years ago. My bad. Yeah.
Billy, what's the biggest jump from college to pros for you when you made that transition?
Bring it back to 2014 Miami.
Let's go.
Bring it back.
What round did you get drafted? Let's talk about your draft pick.
Pick 67, third round, top of the third round. Honestly, I think it was the speed of the game. It was what I learned to change within my game was being a bigger person, but also being an athlete, being able to move well for my size. Like, yes, there was an advantage that I had, but over these last 6 years being in the NFL, I've been able to hone in on using that more and more every year to my advantage. So the speed of the game and focusing on my things that I am good at, that make me the football player that I am, that are different than the guys playing next to me who play the same position. They do things differently. They do them better, in their way than I do them. And I think that comes into coaching as well. I talked to Scott Fuchs. Fuchsy was my online coach at NDSU. I talked to him and some of his guys at Buffalo this week, and just talking to them about, focusing on the things that you do well as an athlete. That is your advantage. You need to use that as much as you can. You know what I mean? And I think good coaches at any level are able to, kind of teach athletes how to better themselves in that game at that position, but also they have to be able to adapt to those athletes because every athlete is different, So that transition for me was the speed of the game and how I, coming in where if this is me and the speed of the game is up here, how I leveled that playing field was just honing in on those things that I was good at. So that was my pad level. That was my feet. That was my punch. That was, the actual, call it the education of the game where, watching film differently. And when I walk up to the line, I'm not just looking at the D line. I'm looking at safety rotation. I'm looking at, see if the corner is topped over there by a safety or something like that. Seeing if the linebacker is in the same position that he was the last two or three plays that we were in this formation. You know what I mean? So picking up on those things, that was the big difference for me from college to the NFL, because in college at the FCS level, although we did play, some big time schools, but you were able to get away with things. I mean, honestly, in college, I was just being an athlete and just overpowering people, and in the NFL, you can't do that.
Right.
And honestly, I was 320 pounds when I got drafted from NDSU. I've been playing the last 3 years at 290, 295 pounds. Why? Because I understand myself more as an athlete. I understand my pad level more. I understand the leverage that I need. And I know that I don't need to be 320 pounds to use my attributes as an athlete to my advantage.
Right. And your first year too, you started 2 games and didn't you like break your leg or something, break your foot?
And preseason, the first preseason game was booty cheeks. The second preseason game, I made strides. I got better and I was excited. I got pulled out of the game during like the third quarter maybe. Someone got banged up, so they threw me back in, but they threw me back in at a different position. I was like, okay, whatever. Went back in. First series was fine. Coach was like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, man, let's go. Went back in, running back. We were running like inside zone to the right, and I think I was on the left side. Running back jump cut and landed on my foot and broke my foot. Yeah. And I thought I just like twisted my ankle. So whatever, played through it, didn't say anything, played the entire next week and a half, the next preseason game. And after that third preseason game, going into the fourth, I'm like, yo, I got to get my foot checked out. Foot was broken. I was out for like 2 months and then didn't do anything except for work out pretty much the rest of that season. And then towards the end of that season, I got back on the field, started practicing. Some guys got hurt, and I ended up getting in like the last 1 or 2 games, just a couple series, a couple snaps when someone had to come out of the game because of injury, whatever. And, that was my rookie season. It was pretty shitty, to be honest with you. But
how difficult was that? Obviously, number one, you missed 1 game, I think, in college, like your sophomore year. You missed like Lafayette or something, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. Other than that, you played every other game, started. You're a 3rd round, 67th overall draft pick. Like, there's expectations on you from the organization, but more importantly, you've got expectations of yourself. And all of a sudden, for the first time in probably your whole life, I would imagine, you not only can you not play, but when you were finally starting to find your rhythm, the story of your Miami career was they moved you a different position, right? How did you kind of deal with that, especially, being away from North Dakota State where, we were pretty close, obviously. I think what we had was a pretty special group. How did you handle all that? How did that affect you?
That was a different time for me. I love being in Miami, being in South Florida, the area, living down there, meeting people, etc., as I'm sure everyone can, imagine. But football for me down there was a shit show. I
Yeah.
didn't like it. You know, by the time my time in Miami was coming to an end, I didn't like football. I didn't even want to play anymore. And it is what it is, man. I remember being on the phone before I got cut, talking to my dad outside my house, crying like, man, like, why this is not the NFL. This is not how this is supposed to be. Like, I don't understand what's going on. All this work I'm putting in, like, it's not, why is it not paying off for me? Why is this shit happening to me? You know, I couldn't understand it. But honestly, those 2.5, 3 years in Miami, probably the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because without it, I wouldn't be where I am today. So,
Right.
So going from NDSU, like you said, tight-knit group that we had in that locker room and just the trust, going to an organization like Miami, who has traditionally struggled on all levels from top to bottom organizationally, it was just different for me. And I was not ready for it. And yes, part of that was professional sports in the NFL, but a lot of that was also just the Miami Dolphins organization. It really, truly was. And now being on the outside, looking in, I can see that. Knowing buddies, teammates, people who have also played there and are also playing elsewhere now, they say the same thing. You know, so I know I'm not crazy and I'm just making that stuff up. It was a different time, you know, but honestly, I'm very, very thankful for that time, because without it, you know, a lot of people say that, yeah, no, I'm not happy to get cut. I was happy to get cut. I didn't want to be there anymore.
Right.
I didn't. And I ended up in Denver, and it was – I didn't even start playing right away, but I got better. I started to love football again. I started to love to compete again, and that whole love and everything just started to come back for me in the game of football, and that has just continued to propel me forward further and further every year since. Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be very difficult. Obviously, we followed your career very closely when, you know, to this day, but when you were at Miami, I mean, I think your last game that you all of a sudden got moved to left tackle, which you hadn't played in, 3 or 4 years since college. And then you get cut. You end up going to Baltimore, right? For like a cup of tea. Got cut again, and then you found home in Denver. But that wasn't where the struggles ended, right? Because right when you started finding your flow, you broke your hand.
Yeah, it was, man, there's a lot of ups and downs. I mean, Miami, I showed up to a game expecting to play left guard, which I had not been playing at all either, but whatever, at least I know I'm playing it. Somebody slips and falls in the shower, you got to start at left tackle. The game starts in an hour. What do you mean?
Right.
Dudes on the offensive line that have played left tackle in the league. We had our right guard at the time was a Pro Bowl left tackle. But I had to go play left tackle? Okay, sure.
Right.
Whatever. End up getting cut, go to Baltimore. End up getting cut 3 days after I get to Baltimore because someone else got hurt and they needed to pull someone up to the active roster for the game to play special teams. I'm like, all right.
They can't have you run down on kickoff?
I'm like, my career's over at this point. I thought that was it.
Right.
And then, getting to Denver, started figuring stuff out a little bit, started getting my groove back. Rookie rolls on my ankle in the off-season program. I get a high ankle sprain. I'm out for the spring. And coach comes up to me and tells me he was about to name me a starter at right guard. I'm like, bruh, what? Knock me back down, come back. Obviously not a starter, got to work my way back up. Next thing you know, the season's starting. Somebody gets hurt, gets my opportunity to come back in and play, start playing well, bow, punch JPP, dislocate my finger. Man, pull it back in socket, finish the game. Game's over. I'm walking out of the locker room. Hey, I saw you grab your hand. Let me check it out real quick. I'm like, no, I'm fine. Like, I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm high at this point. I'm ecstatic. Played a decent game. Like, I'm starting to play again. Like, man, let me go home. I'm out of here. I feel fine. Get an x-ray. Hand is shattered. Had surgery the next day. Put on IR. That was the end of my 4th season in the NFL, the end of my rookie contract. So, again, at that point, I'm like, my career in the NFL is over. I barely have any film. The film I do have out there is film of me at different positions playing like shit, you know. But honestly, I was thankful enough for them to bring me back.
On a one-year deal, right?
One-year deal, yeah. And I went into that one-year deal expecting to go in and be the starter again, and I wasn't the starter. Is what it is. A couple people got hurt, and I ended up starting like 12 or 13, 14 games. I played in all of them, but I ended up starting 12 to 14. And honestly, I wanted to start every game, you know, but that's not how it worked out for me. But it led to me playing different positions that year, different positions all those years prior. So now I'm looked at as somebody that can go in and start a game at any of those positions on the offensive line, which is ultimately why the Green Bay Packers reached out and ended up paying me.
Right. And it's pretty crazy that of all the struggles that you had, you played 100% of the regular season snaps this year for the Green Bay Packers, and you played more snaps than anyone on the roster. So, and you weren't healthy the whole year. I mean, right, Detroit, you got pretty jacked up bad, right, the last game of the season.
Yeah, I was hurt from Detroit on throughout the playoffs. I was basically playing on one leg. I just kind of recently started being able to run and do all my movement stuff like normal again. But, you know, I mean, it's playing injured is something that I've done since I was little. But at the same time, that's the mentality that was engraved in me from a little kid in Little League to high school to NDSU and will forever be engraved in me. You know what I mean? Unless you can't walk, you know, unless they're taking you off on that cart, buddy, you better get out there.
Do you think a lot of that has to do, you know, with your dad's mentality? Obviously, you know, we all kind of know Maurice, and, well, maybe not as well as I do, but, you know, obviously he played, 5 years in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I still think he's tougher than you. You can whoop your ass probably. I don't know, maybe not. When were you finally able to outbench him?
I mean, I got stronger than my dad after going into my sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
Which some people might look at me like I'm crazy or something, but my dad is a specimen. He's just
because your dad's not a big dude. I mean, he's very strong, but
he looks way bigger than he is.
Yeah, he's
always looked like that. Like he looks like he's 230, 240 pounds, but he's really only 205.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're about a foot taller than him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
About 100 pounds heavier too.
When we spent a few days up in Tampa together, you talked about you might need surgery. Did you ever have to get surgery, or what happened with that?
No, I didn't. Thank God. I ended up going back, getting my ankle checked out, and it was healing. Didn't need surgery. Just had to kind of stay off it for another month after that point. But there was a dude that had the same injury as me and basically was on the same trajectory and didn't play throughout the playoffs because of the injury, and then hadn't been doing anything. Went back the day before I think I was there to get checked out. He was on a different team, but ultimately ended up having to have surgery for the same injury, you know. So, I mean, I'm just thankful that my body was working and everything inside was, you know, healing me up. So I, you know, didn't have to get cut open again, man. Anytime you don't got to get cut open, that's a blessing.
Right. Right. Well, we got this Last Dance coming up, episodes 5 and 6. You guys have all been watching, I assume?
Oh, yeah, tuned in. I've been tuned in.
What do you think about it, T?
I'm enjoying it a lot, man, for the fact of, like, you look at some of those years, and then you think about where you was at in life. Like, watching sports wasn't that, like, 94, like, you wasn't. Like, I was 4 years old, so I wasn't, like, tuned in front of the TV. So I hope a lot of people are recording their seasons and not releasing footage to later on. So I hope a lot more people are doing this.
Right.
Well, they said Kobe did it.
Yeah,
it came out recently.
Yeah.
See,
that would be awesome. See some Kobe Shaq drama.
Oh, it's a whole lot of drama, man. Funny that some of the stuff you say from top to bottom, but I don't know I just like this. Like, the Last Dance is like good. As far as the GM, I didn't know the GM had that big of a play in all of this till now.
You know, it's crazy because there's so much, man, like to this day, and even to my knowledge, there is so much shit that goes on behind closed doors in the professional sports world.
Right.
Just being a fan on the outside looking in, like even for me, looking at a different sports industry like basketball, like shit that I'll never understand, but just being in it in football, like, man, like you see shit, you hear shit and watch shit happen, and you're like, bruh, there's no way. Like, what? And it's just, I'm telling you, and this is one of the first times, maybe not, but one of the first times where someone to the caliber of Michael Jordan is putting this footage out there for the world to see, and fans, everyone are looking at it and they're just in awe. And that is probably why Michael Jordan came out ahead of time and said, you know what, there's probably going to be a lot of people that watch this that look at me differently and think I'm a bad person. It is what it is, man. But you know what, that still does not discredit the fact of how great he was at what he did.
Yeah.
I think the owner didn't want to pay some of those guys too. I think it wasn't just the GM. The owner didn't want to pay. I mean, he wasn't going to renegotiate Scottie Pippen's contract. They didn't want to do it. 7 years, $18 million. I mean, that's insane. I mean, I think he made over $12 million 1 year with the Houston Rockets. I mean, he didn't want to pay Michael Jordan. Doesn't want to pay Phil Jackson. I mean, it's
the Phil Jackson thing is just wild, because not only are you saying he can't come back, but Michael Jordan is publicly announcing, if Phil is not the coach of this team, I will not be playing. Like, so not only are you cutting Phil Jackson, you're essentially cutting Michael Jordan. That's wild.
So if you think this was going, like, if this whole Last Dance was going on in this time period with social media, would like social media cause them to force their hand to make the right decisions? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Billy just kind of said there's so much, fuckery that goes on behind the scenes that us casual, sports fans don't really understand or know about. I'm sure it's still going on. I mean, Billy, you can probably speak on that.
I mean, yeah, stuff definitely still goes on, but I think, put this 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years from now, when social media, Twitter, Instagram is really starting to fully, I think it happens right then. I think there's a lot of stuff that comes out on social media. People don't understand it. People don't understand the severity of it now, whereas let's call it 10 years has gone by where social media has started to develop more and more. There's more of an understanding, not a complete understanding, but, you still see athletes who are trying to force their hands via social media, whether that be a trade, whether that be anything, call it, from X to Z. Athletes do that in every sport, every year, almost weekly, so to your point, if this were to happen now, social media, like you just brought up, would definitely play a role in it. But I think it would have been worse 10 years ago, right when all of this was kind of, starting to happen, so on and so forth. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of athletes out there who are using social media, I mean, honestly, to their advantage to end up getting places where they want to go. And they're also throwing fans off, I mean, it's to the point where you let LeBron James like a picture of Kevin Durant's video, and oh man,
they're teaming up.
Contract is up.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, they're teaming up, but
right, yeah.
I mean, come on.
Stephon Diggs, the Vikings had some cryptic tweets, and all of a sudden he gets praised.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, but hey man, that's the life we live in now. That's our world.
So speaking of KD, Billy, do you got a burner account?
No.
Wait, you got to tell me that story, T. What? I don't
KD
know what that means.
He got caught with a burner account. So he got like a Twitter that's not really him, but it's him. And
what does he do? Like comment on people's stuff?
Yeah, and he did something where everybody figured out that it was like him the whole time. So
well, who is the like the GM or like the front office dude that got caught like last year doing it?
Oh yeah,
I don't remember who it was or what team it was.
76.
Yeah, he got fired or he ended up stepping down because of it, which is crazy. which is crazy. Like, you're going to set up a burner account to talk shit to the players, etc. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You throw rocks and hide your hand, bro.
Man.
Crazy.
Speaking of social media, Billy, do you ever get caught up in it? Like if KD obviously did, to create a burner account to talk shit to people who may be talking bad about his play or his performance or his decisions. Do you ever get caught up in any of that?
Man, you know what? Early on in my career, in Miami specifically, even in Green Bay a little bit, because they are just, balls to the wall about their team and their organization. Like, you don't even really necessarily have to have a bad play at all throughout the course of a game. If you guys lose, there's going to be people on there talking mad shit. You know what I mean? So as a young player, if you don't understand that, that can mess with your mindset a little bit. So there was times where, like, during training camp, like, no social media at all for me. I don't want to read negative things about myself, like, because not knowing what you're doing, you're still learning, you start to believe. It starts to creep into your mind a little bit, Now being a little bit older and being the mindset that I've kind of transitioned and, taught myself to live and to project out, honestly, you can talk all the shit you want. Certain times, I don't care, but there's going to be certain time where I might be a little pissed off and I might just start going in on you on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever. Like, they tell you not to do it, but, I mean, the same people that are telling you not to do it are also doing it. Point in case, the dude that just got caught, like we were just talking about last year. He was a front office dude. Like, so it is what it is. Somebody was trying to talk trash to me last week on my Instagram, some bum. And it was for sure a burner account. And I'm just like, you know what? I might not have time 3 weeks ago, but today I got time. Let me it is what it is, man. Sometimes you just got to get shit off your chest. It feels good.
I just got one more question. I got a question for both T and Billy, but Billy with you, because we kind of touched on it already. Compare the locker rooms, because being from North Dakota State, we had probably the best culture in college football, like at any level. And that's not me just saying that. That's me talking to coaches that have been there and now at the Power 5 or wherever. How was the Green Bay locker room like this year? Because you guys won a lot of close games. And Cole and I were talking last week about, obviously there was, the draft or whatever happened, and there was some feathers potentially ruffled up with that first round pick and not drafting a wide receiver. How great was the locker room last year in Green Bay? And obviously you weren't there previously, but I've kind of heard that it necessarily wasn't a fun place to be, a fun place to come to work. How was it? And do you think that contributed a ton to you guys winning ball games in the fourth quarter?
I think the locker room, the mentality that we all equally shared and the mindset that we all had was honestly the biggest factor to us winning games and being successful this past year. Right. It's the closest locker room that I've been in comparison to when I was at NDSU, and it was by far the best locker room, atmosphere, and as far as just everyone kind of together as a whole being there in this unit in comparison to NDSU over the course of my, 6-year NFL career to this point. And like you just kind of brought up, I wasn't there previous years in Green Bay, but from what I had heard the last 2 years before I got there, it was bad, man. It was just negative. There was a lot of negativity. And, being the person that I am the past couple of years, kind of trying to transition into a person that is a little more positive and trying to project that positivity and that good mindset out to others and just trying to bring happiness. That was something that I wanted to, bring. I don't like to force anything on anybody, but it was something that, some of the guys around me started to take notice in. And, next thing you know, we're the first day of off-season program and our head coach is talking about changing the mindset, changing the mentality of the team. And so that was something that everyone, surrounding the locker room, the coaching staff, the front office, man, all the way down to the trainers and the cooks, like everyone took that, you know what I'm saying? And everyone bought in and it changed the atmosphere, man. There was plenty of guys that from day one might not have been happy to go to work, but shit, by day 300 and whatever, and we're going to the NFC Championship. Guys are showing up to practice, smiling, laughing, completely different people, you know? So that was honestly the biggest takeaway for me. And that was one of the biggest things that I really was impressed with my time in Green Bay this year. And the one moment that I remember is being in the huddle. I played next to Brian Balaga, one of the greatest to play the game. And if anyone personally knows Brian, that's my homie. Like, he likes to talk shit sometimes. You know, he's kind of grumpy at times, you know, but, you know, I'm bringing all this positivity, whatever, right? And, you know, sometimes I'm just like, man, I know he needs a little bit of juice. He needs some of that positive. I just reach over, hit him with one of these on the chest right there, just like I taught Tommy, you know. Give him a little bit of
do that to Tommy.
real simple, right? And someone taught me that a couple years ago. I'm like, what are you doing, man? I'm just helping you out, bro. I'm like, all right, whatever. You know, so I started doing that to Brian, right? By the last game of the year going into the NFC Championship game, my ankle was messed up, and I was showing up to practice in a foul mood, not in a good mindset, nothing. Brian reaches over, hits me with one of these, and I just turned to look at him, and he was smiling. I'm like, man, that was the moment right there, bro. That was it right there. That was the moment that I knew I got to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it took the whole season or not, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And that was the moment for me. And obviously, wanting to win a Super Bowl, wanting to win that game, you know, we didn't win, no. And it pisses you off thinking about it. But at the same time, given the situation we're in right now, even with this pandemic, there's a silver lining in everything.
So, T, then, you know, we're all from the Midwest up here, and I think we all kind of have well, at least I do, like a certain stigma about the SEC and locker rooms down there. How was your experience there? You know, obviously you ended with a really good year, right? You made it to a big bowl game.
No, I started out going to bowl games.
Okay.
It didn't go according to plan. With 3 different head coaches in my time period at the University of Kentucky, it is kind of tough. But I can truly say the locker room was there. I was blessed to be around a great group of guys that just own their craft and just wanted to win week in and week out. That's the tough thing is when you don't win inside of a winning oriented business. But as far as the guys that I played with, we freaking did everything right, checked off all the boxes. It's just when you talk about that South, it's just some teams in that South that just done paid their dues way before we was born, and they tradition runs really deep. But to see what Kentucky's doing now, and they getting everything turned around with Stoops and everything. But as far as locker room and everything like that, it was a great experience, man. I can truly say it wasn't too many turds, but it's always going to be turds. But as far as buying in and like freaking trying to win every Saturday, that's what we tried to do. It was never no like roll over, I think, which I kind of look back on and noticed that a lot more today, because it's a lot of times like I went back and watched 2012 us playing Alabama, and it was like freaking a good ass Alabama team. We had them pretty much scoreless in that first half, and I guess Nick Saban was like, "Hey, enough of this bullshit." But as far as guys in that locker room, it wasn't nobody in there locker room thinking that we gonna get destroyed. And I think that's just the thing I love about football so much is like that's the mindset you gotta have, like to be able to play any game. Like even if you underdog, you still got to have the mindset you're going to come in and compete your butt off, because you can't go into a football game and like halfway, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That shit just don't work like that.
Oh, for sure. That's my insight from both of you. I appreciate it. A little NFL life, a little college life, a little look into the SEC. We appreciate both of you guys joining the Dynasty Sports Podcast for episode number 2. And we look forward to potentially having some more meetings with you guys.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Let's enjoy this last